She borrowed somebody else's show and did a special edition of because Margaret Moore couldn't do it some other time.
Well, that's all good stuff.
Margaret Moore didn't show?
She did show.
Well, I don't know about Margaret Moore. We have Maura Phelan here.
Yes, Maura. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be
I
here.
appreciate you coming down. I realize it's kind of short notice at the time. With the convention, everything's been hectic last week and this week to get geared back up. So we're very glad you could make it. And we're going to talk some about your campaign and some about why you're the best girl for the job, which I already know because you got the R behind your name. But we'll also try to talk some about the convention. Some of the things that were done that might be of highlight, which I don't know because I didn't read all the platform stuff, which is all on the PDF, that we might throw on the screen. I don't know. Anyway, Mike Lee, Marilyn Jackson, good to have y'all here.
Yes, it's good to be here.
It's great to be here.
Yes, it is. And Mike will get a chance to talk to us about what his experiences were at the convention as well. So we want to hear everything as well.
10-4.
But Maura, we are so glad that you're here with us this evening. We want to hear everything about what you're doing. I mean, of course, we don't want you telling all your tricks and everything with your campaign because we don't want the enemy to know what you're doing. But we want to hear about the job description that you're running for. And not only that, we want to hear about your background, where you've been and how did you get to where this is. Where are you from? Are you from Austin? We want to know all those details.
Okay.
Do you drink and drive?
No.
I don't think you get to pass that to your predecessor yet.
And I don't do much vodka, so.
How did she get away with all that?
Well, you have to be on the inside, Pokey.
Just a road dump truck driver ain't gonna handle that, is he?
You know, she knows Greg.
Well, I know Greg too, but that ain't gonna help me.
I am running for district attorney.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to revel on like that.
You know, that's just the way you go. I'm running for Travis County District Attorney, and I am running for the job because I always wanted this job.
Awesome.
I grew up in Houston, Texas, in Northwest Houston, and went to Texas A&M. I have a degree in animal science.
Wow.
Commercial animal science.
Good
from
for
Texas A&M.
a lawyer.
I used to tell juries that it makes me uniquely qualified to understand the criminal mind. So, and then I went to law school at University of Houston Law School, and after that worked in Johnny Holmes's office in Harris County as a juvenile prosecutor with a third-year bar card. I worked for a firm in Houston that did commercial litigation, white-collar criminal defense. Then I moved to Georgetown and was an assistant county attorney under Billy Ray Stubblefield for 2 years, and then I went to work for the Travis County District Attorney's Office.
Wow.
And have worked there for 12 years, was board certified in criminal law from 96 to 2006, so for 10 years. During the time I was there, I was in the grand jury division, the trial division, the child protection team, which does the institution of the civil and criminal cases. I was in the child abuse division. I was head of the lottery division. I was also in special prosecutions unit and did the fiduciary, breaches of fiduciary duty, and in grand jury. And when I left the DA's office, I went out to do civil law. And so I did, and still do, probate and guardianship, fiduciary litigation from the civil side, and represent, do some family law, and also represent parents in DPRS cases, removals and things like that. So the district attorney's office does not only felonies in Travis County, but also has some statewide jurisdiction, what the public integrity unit does, even without it being funded by the legislature. And also does all of the civil removals and the institution of the civil cases for the child abuse cases, and also does the mental health docket.
Wow.
So my experience really dovetails into all of those things.
That is amazing.
So.
You know, you said one key word a moment when you were describing or just really introducing yourself, and I love what you said about, you know, that this is what you wanted to do all along. And, you know, it's amazing when you know about your purpose and destiny for what it is that you want to do, and you're not just up running for a race. I mean, it makes a difference when you have the passion for what it is that you're doing for that race, and not only that for that race, but it really is for the betterment of the people. It's not just you're just out there willy-nilly filing, your paperwork and just having a sign up.
When I was at the district attorney's office, I just saw so many things that I thought could be done better, ways to do it better, and ways to manage it better, ways to handle the dockets better, things that were being overlooked or not addressed. And so when I sold my house in Georgetown, I made sure that I moved into Travis County, that I was in Travis County so that I could run for Travis County District Attorney. And I really wanted to run against Ronnie Earl, but at the time that he retired, I was just starting a new law firm and I wasn't in the position to be able to do that. So now's the time. And I can't believe the opinion that people have of Austin and Travis County because of what's happened at the district attorney's office. I was actually in England. I was in England in August, and when I would tell people that I was from Austin, they'd go, "Oh, wait, isn't that the one with the woman on TV who was spitting at the offices?"
Oh, my God.
Yes, in England. So
Way across the world.
exactly. We're world famous.
Who would be that woman they were referring to, if you know?
Rosemary Lindbergh.
And who's that?
Oh,
She's our present district
yeah,
attorney.
you weren't around that long in Austin.
No, I wasn't.
It wasn't that long ago, but anyway.
Yep.
Wow.
And
About no morals and no sense of duty or honor. I mean, I would have thought with that kind of position, you would have resigned because that was kind of embarrassing for the office. She wasn't assistant or anything. She was the DA.
well, I think that it undermines their position in every prosecution.
They're Democrats. They don't ever get undermined.
I can tell you that when I worked for Harris County, Johnny Holmes told us that if you get arrested, he said if you're as a lawyer and an assistant district attorney, if you are too stupid or too drunk to get out of being arrested, then
Resign?
well, he said don't show up to work. If you're arrested, just don't show up.
Now that's scruples, honor, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
Well, it's integrity of the office. I mean, this is an
Yeah.
office that is holding our officers and our
Yes.
populace to a higher standard. They have to be held to a higher standard too.
That is true.
I mean,
Yeah.
if truly they can get a conviction for a misdemeanor and still be prosecuting felonies and don't think that's a conflict, well then, can our misdemeanor prosecutors get a conviction for a felony and still be prosecuting misdemeanors? It just doesn't make any common sense to me.
And
It's
where's the
embarrassing.
respect?
Yeah.
Where's the respect?
Well,
I mean, you lose it.
Well, exactly. But the relationship with the community had already broken down before that happened. And since the Rosemary's arrest, during the entire time I was at the DA's office, the entire 12 years, there were 2 DWIs during that time. Since Rosemary's, we have 3 ADAs who've been arrested for DWI. That just doesn't bode well.
I mean, it's not cool to get a little slap on the finger, but yet, you push the law and you arrest other people for not arrest, but you sentence them to jail. That's not a good standard.
It's not consistent, and if it's not consistent, how can it be justice? I mean, the district and county attorney's offices are the ones that are issued by the legislature to see that justice is done. Defense attorneys aren't, but the prosecutors are. And to be justice, there has to be consistency and transparency and accountability.
Yes.
And right now, we just don't have that. Do you know that the district attorney's office doesn't have any guidelines for the plea bargain recommendations that they make day to day? And has never had.
No wonder.
Well, I'm kind of out of the no lawyer stuff, but is this normal?
Well,
How many, is this other county DAs do
no.
this?
No, in Harris County, you know,
You got guidelines.
you got guidelines, you got a book, sit down with those and.
Williamson
and
County,
that was-
Hayes County, they all got,
In Williamson County, it was a small enough office that you actually had a chief who told you what the recommendations were for the offenses, and before you made a recommendation on an offense you hadn't done before, you went to see the chief. I mean, there were only 7 of us in the criminal
okay,
division
that's,
then, but-
still, you had to check,
Correct.
clear it before.
But the DA's office has more than 70 attorneys. You know, how can you have an office like that and not have an employee handbook?
Excuse me, but in my experience practicing law, which goes back to 1975 or thereabouts, most district attorney's office in counties where I worked in Dallas, Harris, and Jefferson. Most of them had standard recommendations. Are you
Jefferson,
saying
that's
that-
Beaumont area, isn't it?
Yeah, that's Beaumont, Port Arthur.
Right.
Are you saying that the Travis County District Attorney's Office does not have standard recommendation
Correct.
policies?
Correct.
So it's kind of wide open, and the recommendations and sentences that you get can vary from attorney to attorney.
That's why we
There's
have
no
such a
consistency.
huge disparity in the sentencing that we've had in Travis County.
Does that mean that a lot of it's just a matter of how good or bad your luck is,
Well,
or who you know and don't know?
absolutely. I mean, how else could
I
it?
think it's here, you know, and don't know, because downtown, like a downtown little gaggle of lawyers they got that,
Well, how you feel that day. It depends on how you feel. Are you having a
Holy
good day?
cow.
Or are you having a bad day? Where is the
did you just get out of
accountability?
jail?
Where is the accountability?
Well, right. And then when something happens and it gets brought to the attention of the higher-ups or the media that this has happened, I mean, we see the office go and say, oh, it will never happen again. Well, how can it never happen again if it's not written down anywhere?
Now, the question I have is this. In terms of manpower, I've gone to the criminal courts here in Travis County a couple of times. I've done mostly family law since I've been here. But it seems like there's a lot of activity in the morning and then a lot of dead time in the afternoon.
Correct.
Are there things inside the DA's office that could be done to rectify that situation, to make sure that taxpayers get more bang for their buck, so to speak?
Well, I believe so. Each county is run differently, and it's run differently depending on your judges as well. But I think that there are ways that we can work with the judges and find ways to make it more efficient, instead of, everybody standing around waiting for the defense.
Get off early on Friday.
Well, you have an opponent in your race. Is there a difference between the amount of experience you have and the amount of experience that she has, particularly recent experience?
Oh, absolutely.
How would you describe the difference?
Would it be good to talk about that difference, or? I guess so.
My opponent, Margaret Moore, has not done felonies since 1981. So 35 years. And she was in the DA's office and for a little over 2 years. And then before that, she was a juvenile prosecutor for or juvenile defender, public
did she
defender,
beat Gary
for a little
Cobb?
over a year.
Never mind.
So she never was a top prosecutor there, as was her opponent in the primary, Mr.
I
Cobb.
can't say that she wasn't. I don't know what she was. I wasn't. I'm sorry. That was before I was in high school. So I wasn't in high school in Austin, Texas. So I don't know what her status was then. I do know that the law has changed significantly since 1985.
With the changes and recommendations that you would implement, how would that affect the average person who's charged with, let's say, a misdemeanor?
Well, the DA's office doesn't handle misdemeanors. Misdemeanors are handled by the
By
county
county?
attorney's
Okay.
office. And I don't know what their processes are. I've never been a prosecutor in the county attorney's
How would it
office.
change, how would things change for a person accused of a felony?
Well, first of all, there'd be a range of punishment for each and every felony. And if the prosecutor felt that the particular situation, whether it's the defendant or the circumstances or the evidence in the case, mandated that you vary from what that recommendation is, they'd have to go to a chief, so that it could be considered.
If you had standard recommendations Doesn't that mean that an attorney would have some idea of what he might
Guidelines
expect?
or-
Exactly. And what that would stop is a lot of the haggling back and forth about trying to get this guy a bigger, better deal, because it would have to go through a process. It also means that the court-appointed attorneys who don't have as much time would have exactly the same information as your paid attorneys who have all the time in the world.
Now, for the lawyers who charge by the hour, might that reduce the number of trips they have to make to the courthouse and the amount of money they charge their client?
Absolutely.
So it could save a defendant money.
Well, it would save the county money as
county
well.
money and
Because remember,
public
we
defenders.
don't have a public defender's office. And so what we're doing is we're paying individual attorneys for their time in taking those cases. So yes,
Good work.
not to mention that it would mean that each defendant would have the same sentence for the same offense. And so it wouldn't matter if you had a public defense attorney who has a huge caseload and doesn't have a lot of time for you, or if you had, somebody who was, say, an attorney related to you who has all the time in the world to work on the prosecutors. You'd still be looking at the same sentence.
Wouldn't it also be the case that if you happen to have a tan like me, and you're charged with a certain offense, a person who doesn't have a tan like me, isn't it more likely that there'll be uniformity in sentencing?
Absolutely. And I believe that if you don't have consistency and you don't have some uniformity in the sentencing of the general offenses, that you can't have justice. Because if it's not, I used to tell people, they'd say that I was a mean prosecutor, and I used to say, well, the Supreme Court says if I'm equally mean to everybody, that's okay. And the point is, you've got to be equal to everybody. And so we've got to find a way to make that happen.
Now, during
And
my,
that's tried and true. That's what other counties, large counties do. And Travis County is a large county.
We're a large county.
Yes.
in my experience, I used to think that, I used to believe that district attorneys, for the most part, probably had coffee in the morning with ground glass and gunpowder, because they were typically viewed by me as being pretty mean. They weren't the friendliest people in the world. But I always preferred to work in an area that had standard recommendations, because you could give your client an idea of what to expect,
Absolutely.
and they could prepare for that, and their families could.
Well, and it also means that going to a jury trial becomes something that is much more unexpectable. You know, when you have standards and you can plea them between and give them a range of punishment for what they're looking at, so you can advise them on what to expect. Then you can also tell them that, and if we go to a jury trial, it is truly the crapshoot that it is, because you don't know. A jury has an entire range of punishment.
And
Going to the judge has an entire range of
if you
punishment.
have standard recommendations as you propose, would that reduce the cost of court-appointed attorneys for the county?
I would hope so. There wouldn't be a reason to have all of the meetings with the prosecutors to try and get them to give you a different recommendation, because they're standardized recommendations. If you truly felt that you had a case that needed to depart from those standard recommendations, then your attorney would need to go and visit with the chief. But that also means, the person you elect as the district attorney is the person who should be accountable for what happens in the district attorney's office. And right now, we don't have that, because they've got all these minions who are just doing whatever they want to do. And then when something goes wrong, you just throw them under the bus and say, oh, that wasn't my fault, it won't ever happen again. That's not how this office should, that's not how this office should work.
Well, and it shouldn't be acceptable either.
No, I don't think so.
Now, you indicated some things earlier, and I like the fact what you said, because really, you know, you can get reset and reset and reset. You know, people take
Yeah.
off their jobs to come down to court, and for what? For it to get reset, for them to sit up in there. Who's making the money?
The one legal term I know, dilatory tactics. Isn't that it? Reset, you just keep postponing.
I mean, it's you're dealing with people's lives. Some people lose their jobs. I mean, it just does not make sense. And I'm like, who's making the money on this? And then how can Travis County deal with their budget if they're continually paying?
I understand if there aren't any controls on that. That system is not something that the DA's office can affect as much, but I believe that by having standardized recommendations, that we can affect it as much as possible.
Would that come from the legislative office? Who would do that? Who does this? Who would
Well,
set this in?
the standards for, well, it could come from legislatively, but also the standards for the court-appointed attorneys comes from the judges and comes from the Commissioner's Court and comes from the offices that control that.
Yes.
How much they get paid and what they have to do and what they have to show in order to get paid. So those are, that's where that comes from.
In all these years, it's never been a standard set in Travis County.
Not in the DA's office.
You look like you're thinking a whole bunch over there, Mr. Lee.
Well,
Being the only lawyer time here on the side to guess.
what I'm thinking about is what can the grassroots Republicans do to help you most? I'm thinking about the precinct chairs and the executive committee of TCRP.
Well, of course, there's always fundraising. But the signs are coming out the first week in August, getting signs out there, having groups where I can come and answer these kinds of questions and talk to them about this, about why I'm the best candidate for the job. I mean, you're hiring an attorney for the county. You ought to do an interview, an employment interview, and you ought to look at a resume, and you
a lot
ought
of
to
money.
Well, you ought to make sure that the person that you're putting in this position knows how it works, knows how to make it work, and has some ideas on how to make it work better, and wants the job.
After the last couple, I think I'd just settle for someone with integrity. You mentioned Ronnie Earl, I'm thinking, yeah, he was out. They still brag about convicting Tom DeLay, even though he got off.
He was overturned on
He
appeal.
was overturned, but they're still bragging about,
So was Rick Perry. So we spent a lot of money on those. And,
Yes.
well, and then Kay Bailey Hutchison, he dismissed when they got to trial. So he stood up and dismissed that. And they spent lots of money on that. So,
Yeah,
You know.
I'd settle for just some, with this DWI thing, you're supposed to resign. I mean, they're not an assistant or anything, that was the DA.
well, and the Rick Perry money
And
was
that-
Travis
yeah.
County money. That wasn't public, there was no longer a public integrity unit. And also, we used Travis County
That
money
was a
to
lot
run
of
the public
Travis County
integrity
money.
unit. Rosemary got the Commissioner's Court to give her money to keep the public integrity unit running.
Yes.
So,
Mommy on the phone.
So-
Pick it up. Don't hide from me. You can't hide. It's your mom.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Oh.
another thing too.
All right, bye.
I wanted to say,
I think she wants to show me something.
okay.
well, and another thing too, Maura, is that it just seems like it's so much quid pro quo going on with the DAs, well, with the attorneys and the judges trying to get a better deal, as you were saying earlier, trying to get a better deal for, their client. It's like so much when there's not a standard that's set, then they just, like you say, they go back and forth and they try to get the best deal for it's just,
Well, and a lot of the cases aren't assigned to a particular attorney. And so a lot of the resets are to see which attorneys show up, which prosecutors show up to court, so you can try and find one who likes you.
So there are a lot of built-in inefficiencies. is
Correct.
what you- Okay.
Well, opportunities, actually, more than inefficiencies. It gives an opportunity to try and find a prosecutor who might be more susceptible to whatever you're asking for your client. And that's not a bad thing, depending. I mean, a lot of times, you have defendants that need advocates. Absolutely, they need advocates. My concern is the defendants who don't get the kind of advocacy that they deserve.
You told me.
So,
that is amazing.
Fix the Tribune trouble.
Take-
oh,
It's
okay.
all fixed. Sometimes you have to tell your computer nerd how to work the computer. She didn't like that. What, Bo? I didn't mean it.
Don't get
You're
yourself
doing
in
real
trouble.
good.
Don't get yourself in trouble now.
Maura, you're on the Trailer Park Show.
Sorry about that. The Texas Tribune has a dozen pictures or so. I
Okay.
didn't know if he'd show them when we get around to it, if we do. Catch my breath. Go ahead.
Take it out. One of the things that came up at the state convention was Rosemary Edwards, who used to be the chair of the Travis County Republican Party, she made a speech on your behalf. And during her speech and her request for financial aid, so to speak, campaign contributions, there were a lot of remarks in the audience, and I was sitting in the audience, about how sorry they feel for us Republicans down here in Travis County. Of course, as Director of Outreach and Engagement, I'm trying to change that. I'm out on the front lines, and I didn't get shot just yet. But
Still got a ways to go.
one of the things that I've tried to do, and it seems that you've partaken of it, is to go on the east side to various community events. I saw you, I think, a couple of months ago at an event on the east side on a Friday night. I'd almost bet my life that your opponent will not be on the east side of Travis County on a Friday night.
Well, you have to keep in mind, there's a new east side now in Austin.
That's true.
Well, even the new east side.
The barrio's about gone.
I mean, so it's okay. It's not necessarily the ghetto like it used to be.
We were at the Carver.
Oh, you're at the Carver? Uh-huh.
Right, for the state of Black Austin.
Okay.
Oh, you need to talk directly into the mic?
Oh,
I need to speak louder.
Oh. Yeah, I tell you, speak up when you're out in the trailer park. You're doing fine. Just speak up when you're out in the trailer park.
That's why she.
Okay, I'm still talking about this Friday
I'm
night
just glad you're the one.
foray into East Austin.
yes, I went to the presentation on the state of Black East Austin at the Carver Museum. It was very interesting. It was great people, and I met some really wonderful people. And it was very interesting, the talk about how the black population in Austin had decreased, while in other cities of our size, we were the aberration. In fact, the only one they had where the black population had actually decreased by 17%, which is a large amount. And it was interesting because in the pre-primary campaigning, which I was unopposed, but I wanted to get out there and meet the candidates and be able to talk to people and find out what was going on. Because I've never been a candidate before. I've never intended to be a politician, but here I am. So. I had talked to the Delta Sigma Theta ladies and got to speak to them and meet the candidates, because we had, a cast of thousands for Precinct 1 commissioner, and that runoff is coming up. So it was very interesting to me to go to these events and find out this information and be able to hear some wonderful speakers. And I've gotten to see a bunch of them since then. In fact,
Oh, so you've been hanging out in the hood, huh?
well, I live in Manor, so the hood's a lot closer to me.
Oh, the hood came to you, huh?
That's where a lot of that gentrification happened. They went to Maynard.
Exactly. Well, and it's still happening.
Oh, they met you halfway?
So, well, and we take in, I'm the president of my neighborhood association in Manor, which is quite large, and it goes from 973 to the county line, and from 969 to 290.
Wow.
And so we take in Austin Colony, and so I have a lot of people on my board who are from Austin Colony and who are from Little Town of Lydig, and I actually represented a family that was one of the founders of Lydig.
Wow.
Is that right?
Yes, do you know that was the first black school west of the Mississippi?
My mom used to, she always talked about being in Lydig, and it's amazing when you get on that back road to get there. It's this
beside the railroad track?
one little bit, there's one little town, I'm like, it's a little colony of black people. I mean, it's just amazing. I'm like,
Well, and the old school is nearly dilapidated now,
Yes.
and the community house, and I wish that some of those things had been preserved.
Yes.
But in fact, for some of my probate cases, because wills hadn't been probated and deeds hadn't been done, I got to interview some of the ladies that lived there, some of the older ladies, and document the history of Littig and the history of the families.
That's
And
amazing.
it was, if you go into the probate files in Travis County, there are some wonderful heirship affidavits that recite the history of Littig and Manor and Eastern Travis County. So, and I'm kind of a history freak, so we actually put on a lot of that. Do you know that the town of Weberville was actually founded by Mr. Weber? It was the first Texas, first sanctioned interracial marriage in Texas.
It's amazing.
And he's founded Weberville.
We
Now,
have our family reunions out there every year.
well,
That's amazing.
it was right on the Colorado River, his homestead was. And since then, the family eventually, after all the Indian raids, moved to South Texas. But it was anyway, interesting stories
Yeah.
from out there. So they were saved by Colonel Menchaca at one point. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah. So we actually have
stuff.
we have a creek in Manor that's named after the one guy, and his only claim to fame was that he survived being scalped by the Indians.
See, that was a
I thought that was pretty cool. So, anyway, so yeah, I don't know.
You've enjoyed your campaign.
I have. I enjoyed all these meeting lots of people,
Great.
and I've also enjoyed going up to North Lake. You know, it's a long drive to get across the lake when you don't have a boat. But the people in North Lake are really very neat, and I'm going to go out to Lakeway. I've got some friends out there, and I'm going to go out. Been invited out to Lakeway to speak. So, and I've found all kinds of meeting rooms I didn't know existed. I didn't know the IHOP had meeting rooms. You know. And Denny's has a meeting room.
Yes, I just learned that recently myself.
So it's been very interesting.
I got thrown in jail out in Lakeway.
You know, in all this moving about, have you run into your opponent at any time?
It was an outlaw trucking thing. It's,
I saw her,
Marvelous,
let's see, we were both on KAZI, the Voice of East Austin, last Monday on Latrice Cook's show. I also saw her on Friday. We were on a panel with the candidates for sheriff, speaking to the sexual assault response and resource team, which is made up of the sheriff's departments and police departments, sexual assaults units, and the victim witness division, and the prosecutors from the DA's office and family justice, and Safe and Safe Place, and a bunch of the advocates, and also legal aid. So that was they do some amazing work, and the statistics in sexual assault are crazy in that almost 900 sexual assault cases were passed on from the reporting agencies to the district attorney's office in 2015. Of those, only 152 were accepted. And when nationwide statistics are that 95% of all sexual assaults that are actually reported are true, to say that they only accepted 152 of them is really kind of ridiculous, because that's after they've gone through, I want to go forward, I have witnesses, they've collected evidence, and the police agencies actually believe there's enough to prosecute.
Is that to suggest that it seems like sexual assault cases are being ignored?
I don't think they're being addressed properly. I think that of those 100, last year, only 12 sexual assault cases were disposed of by the DA's office.
Only 12?
12 as sexual assaults.
Wow.
So that doesn't count the ones where they reduced them to
Where they
something else or
pre-bargained
dismissed them or
and played out
pre-bargained to something else.
at a reduced charge.
Correct. The ones that were were completed as sexual assaults. So that's it.
Well, Maura, how much of this ties into the mental health area?
A lot of it. It's estimated that 30% of our jail population is made up of persons with mental health issues. And they're not getting addressed in the jail. And one of the reasons they're in the jail is because their mental health issues are not being consistently addressed. A lot of it's medication issues. But one of the chiefs in the sheriff's department was speaking to one of the groups I was at 2 weeks ago, I guess. And their budget for medication is more than the budget for food.
That is
Holy
amazing.
That's some
Oh
doped up
my
people out there.
God.
Well, there need to be, but
It's the only way to
I always
keep
had
the-
a trouble
under
with this
control.
mental health stuff. How do you define it? And I mean, living with Ma 40 years ought to be crazy.
You're gonna get in trouble.
The-
Okay, so,
there's,
Look at the door.
the difference is being unable to
Hold a job.
to operate in society within societal norms, and so that's when it becomes a mental health issue. When you're a danger to yourself or others. When you're,
Is there any could be using this as a free ride?
I mean, they can try, but psychotropic medication, you either respond or you
I'll tell you
don't.
what, at the VA, I know down there they have plenty of, they claim they're PTSD and they're not, but they get disability. So I didn't know if it's the same way out in the civilian world.
Well, they aren't getting money for it for the most part. I mean, some of them are getting.
All these pills, it's got to be.
That get subsidized, yes, so they can get them off of, they can get them through programs, but
I don't know much about this kind of stuff. It was
Mm-hmm.
outlaw truck driver background. That's
but it is a big thing, Pokey. And it is a very
we had the
serious.
chief
it's a
on
very
and the sheriff,
serious
and they
thing
both talked about.
about it.
the mental health issue is huge, and last year there were 10,000 cases to be handled in the district attorney's office for the mental health, and they've got one prosecutor doing it.
Oh, wow.
She handled about 900 cases last year. She's doing God's work. She's really working
900
hard.
cases last year. That's
Out of 10,000.
165 days. That's several a day anyway.
That's amazing.
Yep.
But I think it just goes all the way back to the home, to the parents, to the home structure. I think parents, you should know that there's something different about your children. There's something, your kids need help in some kind of way. And I really think a lot of times parents, I don't know if they try to get the help of their children or if they ignore it, or they just,
That's going to CPS then. I guess you
Yeah.
could deal with those
Which
cases
is
too.
also a district attorney's office issue.
Parents
And,
are all doped up and
well, or they have mental health issues, or they were victims themselves. I mean, a
Yes.
lot of times it's the cycle of violence. I saw that a lot in the child abuse division. I mean, I went after a defendant who had beaten the child, and the child was. He had some learning disabilities, and he had behavioral disabilities, and he had never spoken about what happened, and the case had been lingering a long time, and it was set for trial. And so I actually had him up on the stand, and it was in Judge Flowers' court when he was on the bench, and he allowed me to stand up next to him and ask him questions, and he told me what happened.
Judge
And
Flower, I've
his-
heard this name before.
Yeah.
All around.
And we got a conviction on it. But his mother had been the victim of sexual assault. She had been a child abuse victim herself, and was still in a relationship now with a man who was an abuser, and was pregnant with another one of his children while we were in trial. And all I could do was take the abuser out of the situation and make sure that this kiddo got the resources and access to resources. But his therapist called me afterwards. What did he say? How'd you get him to talk?
Did we want to talk any about the convention? I'm just thinking about, I didn't have to worry about that.
Yes.
My kids are all bigger than me. They kick my ass.
No, I have one question. Maura, as if elected, you would have to be engaged in dealings with a county commission that might be at odds or at variance with ideas you may have in mind. What kind of challenges do you think you'll face in dealing with the commission
Well, most
and other county officials?
most of the ideas that I have for bringing this office into the 21st century are ones that are being used throughout the state. It's not like it's something, completely out of the blue. So there shouldn't be too much of an issue, not to mention that it'll make things more efficient and cheaper. and allocate the resources better. And it's something the community is crying out for. I can't tell you the people who are completely horrified to hear that there are no standards for plea bargains. That's
That's
something they didn't
amazing.
even know.
Isn't that something that the judges would like?
You would,
I would think.
I would think. Not that I'd know,
Yay
but
and nay.
well, the judges want their dockets to move along. And I think it would move the dockets along. But,
In a fair way,
correct, exactly.
in a fair way.
Exactly. So I can't see that most of these things are things that would be difficult to get done, not to mention that most of that is internal stuff that wouldn't affect the budget I'm presenting to the Commissioners Court. I mean, I've worked with budgets, and I've worked with financing with nothing, actually. I founded a nonprofit 21 years ago that rescues golden retrievers, Gold Ribbon Rescue. It's here in Austin. And we have about 80 volunteers, and I was president from inception to for 11 years, and we were, working with a $350,000 budget a year, and that's with not paying, well, because we weren't paying anybody anything, it was all volunteers. So, I figure if I've got the ability to hire and fire people, I can really get things done. So, so I know how to work with budgets, and I've worked with the Commissioners Court on quite a few things, both representing my clients. I represented the Allendale Neighborhood Association in the North by Northwest issue with Walmart.
Oh, yes.
And so I fought the city on that.
that's been a while back, but yeah, I remember that.
Yep. And so I was dealing with the Commissioners Court and the city and judges on those things. I also have, through my Travis County Kennel Club, dealt with the Commissioners Court and Commissioner Davis and got his help because we were having issues with the Expo Center. And that's another organization that brings a lot of economic impact to Travis County. And so I did presentations to the Commissioners Court about the impact that our club makes to Travis County to get some support. I also, through the Park Springs Neighborhood Association, been before the Commissioners Court many times talking about road improvements, and we actually, the organization was able to stop a dump on Taylor Lane, and instead now it's a solar farm.
Oh, that is pretty good.
So, and since then, we've stopped, I stopped a subdivision that was going in on my road, 70 homes on 70 mobile homes on 70 acres.
What do you got against my trailer park?
Nothing except that all of them needed their own septic.
Oh,
Yeah,
that'll be.
70 septic systems on 70 acres. That was a
when the
little
big rain
overwhelming.
comes,
Yeah,
It'll all be overwhelming.
exactly.
Well, I think that if any problem you may have, it'd be something that's so inevitable, which is change.
Right. Right.
Most people don't like change.
But we haven't had a Republican as a district attorney in Travis County since Reconstruction.
It's time
Is that
for
right?
change.
Yeah.
That's a time for change, all right. And I'm thinking
It's
them
time for
downtown
change.
lawyers, they're not gonna wanna change.
Well, and for 40 years, for 32 years under Ronnie Earl, we had somebody who had never been a prosecutor. So, I mean, Rosemary had been a prosecutor. It had been a long time. She'd been an administrator for a long time, but she had been a prosecutor at one point. So
Wow.
it's just, and
Ronnie
no,
Earl
we've
was
never had
political.
anybody who has been in all the different facets of the office. So.
Amazing.
And, you got to know how the office works in order to make the office work correctly. You want a mechanic who's never been underneath a car? Take
And
a car?
how long did you work in the Travis County District Attorney's office?
12 years.
12 years? And what different divisions of that office did you work in?
Okay, let's see. I was in the grand jury division, the trial division. I was in the 331st, the 390th, the 167th district courts.
All this is on your website?
Yes, well, it's on, not the details of that, but this, on my resume. I was in the child abuse division, the child protection team, which included the child death committee. That we also did. I was there when they started the Children's Advocacy Center, and we started training the investigators to be able to do forensic interviews of children.
Is there any division that you didn't work in? Maybe that'd be easier for me to remember.
I was in the Public Integrity Unit General Local. I wasn't in the Public Integrity Unit statewide, but I was in the Lottery Division, was part of the Public Integrity Unit, and I was also in Motor Fuels Tax Fraud, which is part of the...
The reason I ask...
Motor
is-
fuels tax fraud. They used to come out and dip this little thing in my gas tank. Say, get that, my gas tank. It better not come out, was it clear? No, pink.
Pink, that means that it's
That means
actually...
that I'm buying off-road diesel.
The reason
Exactly.
I ask that question is because I think it may be important to the voters to know how intimate your knowledge is of the workings of the district attorney's office, which may be something that your opponent lacks, especially if she hasn't tried a case in 35 years.
Right. Well, and that she was only a prosecutor for 2 in the
she's only-
DA's office.
If she was only a prosecutor for 2, she would have had time to be there that long enough to work through the various divisions in which you've worked.
Well, those divisions didn't exist when she was there in 81. Most of them didn't exist then. The Family Justice Division didn't exist then. The Victim Witness Division didn't exist then.
We're glad you're running.
So.
And LexisNexis almost didn't exist then. I remember that.
Well, they didn't, in 81, they didn't even have the online filing computer stuff, there wasn't,
So-
NCIC and TCIC, you had to request from DPS to
I
get
want to
sent.
know if you will reduce the number of times that they check for fuel. I'm afraid. I'm afraid, well.
And that's,
It wasn't bad. They only checked my tank, I think, 2-3 times in like 35 years.
and did it ever come out pink?
No.
Okay, you were never pregnant?
No.
Okay, good.
Not that I hadn't tried it once or twice, but you didn't want to get caught.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually was when I was a law clerk in Houston, worked on the defense side of a motor fuels tax fraud case, and Mike Lynch, then to become Judge Lynch, was the
Yeah.
prosecutor.
It
So,
was real tempting.
yeah.
It could be very tempting.
Oh, yeah, you could make a lot of money doing it.
You could reduce your cost of operation
Exactly.
a lot, yeah.
Exactly. So,
Anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to drag off here
No,
my outlaw
it's
truck
okay.
nowadays. Getting thrown in jail out in Lakeway. That was the best. Ma liked to, I wouldn't let no damn Lakeway cop tell me how to run my truck.
just glad we could find you some relevance.
Right down there at City Hall.
Oh, my goodness. Lamar, it sure was nice to have you on the show today.
Yeah, we got
And to
15,
share with us everything. It's just, we would love to have you back on, too, before.
We'll have to do that. And when we can hang one of her signs down here, maybe
Yes.
even have her back with her opponent on.
That would be nice.
If we can find her.
We can find her. We do need to, I know here at the show, we like to push these down ballot candidates. Well, you're a mid-range candidate.
I am.
And I will be asking you, probably, we could ask even now, to describe how the DA is important to, say, your average dump truck driver.
Well, I really think that this is one
Two
race.
birds, legal field.
I think this is a race where we can actually make real change in Travis County through one race, through one vote. This is, we can create justice throughout the county, which is what it's supposed to be doing in the first place. We can have a DA's office that we can respect, that we can put some respect in, that can bring back the respect of the community, which it doesn't have right now. That can have some integrity and some consistency and some accountability, and that is open and will listen to
Yes.
what the community needs to say. Because if I'm in the office and I'm putting together that book of what the plea recommendations are, to get to that book, it's going to take cooperation with the defense bar and the community, and looking at jury verdicts and what the community, how we value in Travis County these
And-
different offenses.
And this will have a lot to do with keeping our streets safe.
Absolutely.
So the average Joe Blow out there will benefit.
Well, and because everyone will be held to the same standard, so they aren't going to get away with it. They're not going to, hey, I have a good attorney, and so he'll get me off on
Don't
everything.
mess with a rich man's
That
kid.
doesn't get to happen anymore. So that when there's consistency and we have some boundaries, because we have very few boundaries in our society now. And without boundaries, people don't know how to act.
No, they don't.
And so, I mean, I raise dogs. You give them boundaries and they know how to act. And same, you know, you got to have some boundaries, and this would establish those.
10-4. Can we look at any pictures real quick? And was there anything you what came out for any of y'all two at the convention? I know he was there, but you keep up with that kind of stuff, I think, right?
I was there.
I was trying to catch up this weekend because I was in trial for 3 days last week.
We did have the rules committee and all that. Did put out a PDF. Did you see that?
No, not yet. I
Oh
haven't
yeah,
studied that.
the state party put out where you can actually look at it all on a PDF.
Oh, I see.
Rules committee and something else. It was all there. Anyway, you did take some good pictures.
I think the main thing is we have a new state party chairman. That
We had the same one.
That you have. We have the same. We have a new one who has his own term. He completed Steve Ministeri's term.
Oh, okay.
He was elected to Meckler one. He's been elected to a full term.
I don't know if we're going to get any pictures or not in this last 5 minutes.
And in that, governor gave a great. The governor gave a great speech, by the way, for real.
Yeah, there
He
you go.
really did.
Making his point.
But we have a new state party chairman. Now that race was, I thought it was highly contested because it was between Jared Woodfield out of Harris County and Tom Meckler, the chair already.
Field stuff. He was everywhere. I
I
can't turn on my
mean-
computer without him jumping out at me.
Now I did volunteer work in the Harris County Republican office, and I've done volunteer work with the Travis County Republican office.
You took some great
And
pictures when you were down there too.
I was I actually voted for Meckler because while working in the Harris County Republican Party office, I told someone, I said, I put it as simple as this. I worked on the project after
I don't know who that is.
redistricting.
Oh, Ted Cruz's father.
Oh, okay.
we-
He sure get the Mike Lee's pictures on there. I want him throwing the black power sign up there.
After redistricting,
That's
they had to relocate polling places.
Yeah.
And I worked in that office for several months. And I had a great relationship with the executive director, Court, at the time.
Relocate polling places.
But I never met Jared Woodfield. I mean, I was there for months.
There's Ted making some kind of point of his own, huh?
Well,
This is Texas Tribune, so you know it's gonna have some pictures you can find. The ugliest ones you can find, I guess. I don't know.
That was a good one. Any more?
where am I?
I want to see black power sign over here.
I didn't do that.
That's pretty fun.
I didn't do that, and I won't do it until TJ is on with me.
Well, I got a picture of you standing in front of the elephant down there.
TJ, if you're watching this show, I'm calling you out. I'm letting you know we're gonna do it together.
Polling places. We are working on a voter integrity show for June 6th.
And Juneteenth is coming up.
Juneteenth is coming up. It's almost time for our announcements now. We got about 5 minutes left of the show. It was good having you on. We will have you on again, with or without your opponent.
Thank you.
We may have to get carve-outs made for the Democratic
I'm
candidates if
just
they
hoping
don't
we
show.
don't embarrass ourselves too much and become a detriment. Be about outlaw truck driver tales or nothing like that.
That'll be fine.
Who is the Democrat opponent? Who would be the?
Moore?
Margaret Moore.
Margaret Moore.
Excuse me.
I don't like to mention their names for some reason. I'm tearing a page out of Gabe's
We don't need
book.
to give them any. Well,
Yeah.
we got a
But-
lot of Democrats watch too, though.
Well, and it's kind of telling on her bio page. If you go to her bio page, it's got a write-up, which kind of construes her background. And then if at the very bottom in red, it says you can see her real resume. And then you look at her resume, and the only criminal she's got is 35 years ago, 30 years ago. So
Some poor truck driver, she done railroaded.
she's been doing before
Had to
she
put that in.
retired, and I think she's been retired for 2 or 3 years or something. Before she retired, she was at the AG's office doing Medicare fraud. So,
Probably a good
which
thing.
is administrative stuff. So she hasn't been when asked by a judge, by a panel, she hadn't been in the criminal courthouse in over 30 years. So,
Yeah, anyway, okay, we've got about 5 minutes left now, 4.5. Juneteenth's coming up. We will have a pretty, hey, you'll be there too, right?
I am.
You're gonna have your little float again?
We're gonna have the float, we're also gonna have the booth, and we're gonna spice it up a little bit
And what
this
kind of
year.
music you gonna have at the booth?
See, James Brown,
James
Aretha
Brown?
Franklin. I'm working on a list.
I was sending my lady all the old love songs they had. My girl, my girl.
I've got a lot of old blues albums.
Motown. I must have some black blood in me or something, 'cause I like that Motown stuff.
Everyone does.
Everyone knows. Okay, I feel better now.
Everyone does.
That's some real romance time, you know.
Original man was like me.
10-4. Hey, you know how to turn that eyeball on the
No,
one tail.
the original DNA was from someone of color.
We gotta show that picture, Mike, with the black power sign in front of the elevator.
In front of the elephant,
Yeah,
I didn't have the fist up.
yes, you did.
Like I said, not till TJ is here.
I know I seen one with you had the fist up.
Yeah, I probably did.
I think you did. And you're right there in front of the elephant.
I probably did.
Won't you just put your fist up now, Mike?
No,
No, you ain't gonna do it till
No,
TJ.
I'm not gonna do it till TJ is here with me.
He was
Oh,
thinking
my
about
goodness.
TJ at the convention when he did that, I
I
know.
sure was.
Well, we've got Deutschenfest is coming up in Pflugerville.
Yeah, let's hear some of what your events, where can people find you on the street?
On the street.
Yeah.
You like-
Fusion Fest?
I'll be at Deutschenfest. I'm going to be out there with the Pflugerville Republican booth. I am going to be. Let's see what I have coming. I'm going to have to pull out my calendar. I have a
Yeah.
calendar up on the website. It's
2.5 minutes, so.
It's MauraPhelan.com.
No, we got 3
And
minutes.
on Facebook, it's Maura for DA. And you can sign up there to be
Yeah.
on the.
Should be coming up here in just a minute.
Okay. You can sign up there to be on the mailing list, and we'll keep you posted with what's going on, and putting up there where I'll be speaking. I'll be out at the, let's see, Lakeway Republicans. I'm going to go out there and visit this next week, and let's
It's a
see.
little out of my area now. It was just some cops that did me like that.
Let's see. Okay, so Lake Travis Republicans are tomorrow, and then I've got. I'll be at. I'm going to the Travis County Women Lawyers Group is having an event on Thursday night, and then awards on Friday, and so I'll be there. Not speaking, but just I'll be there, and then.
There's,
What else we got? The.
there's the website.
Oh, great.
She got a Facebook page too.
Right.
Just look it up.
Maura for DA on Facebook.
I'm gonna have to go like your face.
Juneteenth is, the Juneteenth is on, actually, June 18th.
June 8th.
We'll be there.
On the
This
Saturday.
is gonna be the Friday
And
night
I'll be at the
Saturday?
Man and Me Family Cookout in East Metropolitan
We need
Park.
to all
Yeah,
go
that's
to that.
June the
Is that
11th.
June the
anything he's
11th.
got going on?
Mm-hmm. And,
Oh, we got a minute left.
when is Deutschenfest? It's coming up in, I don't know when it is.
Well, it's coming up. Just look on her calendar or keep her on Facebook.
Or
Yep.
Travis County Republican Party
It is
website,
21st,
TCRP.
May 21st.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's
So-
pretty quick.
That's coming up quick.
That's this weekend.
Yes.
It's this weekend.
Yes, and I'm going to go to the Asian Republican Assembly is
Oh,
having
that is
their
good.
May 24th.
I seen pictures
On
of
the
Mike Lee
24th.
there in Dallas at that.
Yep.
We will be back next week. I'm not going to tell you what it's about. And I know I didn't send out a flyer. I only made a Facebook event for this show. And I didn't do that till today. But the 6th will be probably Laura Presley. And it will be voter integrity because if you can't identify your voters, don't know who they are, and if you don't have voter integrity, which we also need in the DA's office, some kind of integrity. So anyway, we will be back next week, and week after that, and probably week after that, Lord willing, bye. 15:30 we go up.
Okay.
That's very good. Thank you,
Boy, that
man.
was
Thank-
great.